Hello, everybody. My name is Sneaky Snake. Today I will be going over the fire teams chart and military orders. Just a brief look at what type of fire teams we can take, and it might be helpful for anybody who's new to the faction to kind of get a good grasp on what type of teams are good, what units can kind of bolster other fire teams and whatnot. So I wanted to start off with the wild cards because it gives us a good grasp of like other profiles that can go into these other fire teams and help flesh them out. The first profile is the Knight of Justice. Second one is the Knight of Santiago. The third is the Crux. The fourth is Brother Constantinos. The fifth is Deferson, and the final one is Hawkins. Of all of these, there are a couple that are standout, and then some that maybe I don't take as often. So I find Knight of Santiago's to be very flexible, just because of how many um, like how many things they bring to the table. Because I mean, really, there's only two fire team, or yeah, fire teamable options, if you will. You've got the Spitfire and then the KHD multi-rifle. Um, and yeah, I think that they specifically the KHD multi-rifle brings a lot to the table because he can kind of slot into any fire team and bring a tin bot, um, along with all of his other kit, which is very good. But I really do like the Knights of Santiago's as wild cards. The Crux is another really good one because his fire team options are bringing a very good gunfighter to the table. Um, with the the multi marksman rifle PS5, you're getting that +1 special dice, and then you're also getting a second special dice from the fire team you're bringing him in. And for that reason, I think he really does bring a lot to any fire team he's joining. Um, Plus the fact he has albedo, so it's kind of a nice counter slash tech piece. Um, Brother Constantinos is a nice addition to Crosier or Order Sergeant team because he essentially functions as like a second uh, gunfighter, if you will, with his MSV and Mimetism. He is only BS 12, but he can stack some nice mods on people, and the multi-rifle is kind of a good enough weapon to where there are a lot of use cases for it. It's not going to be killing tags, but it's got some really good use. And then finally, he's got a disco baller and assault pistol. The disco baller gives you good like visibility options, so you can kind of block off fire lanes that you maybe don't want your opponent to see down. And the assault pistol is just good for close range. And he's also a specialist operative, so that's nice. Deferson is kind of the last wild card I find myself taking a good amount, just because he's kind of everything, and that's a really nice option to have. So he recently got 6-2 move, which is really nice. Very, very nice. I think a big problem I had with him was that he was rather slow and he kind of had a hard time keeping up with the fire teams that he was joining, specifically the Teutonic one, because um, it might seem like a small difference, but being able to move at the same speed as the rest of your fire team really does add a lot of like flexibility to how you move this unit because it used to be like your Teutonics would move 6 inches forward, and then Deferson would only be moving four. And it doesn't happen every game, but there are games where you kind of lose an order because you have to stall your fire team to let um to let Father Gabriel kind of uh catch up, if you will. But now that he's moving at the same speed as them, you're never really at much of a risk to lose that order. Um, But to go more into his profile, he's got a hacking device with Trinity, and notably, he has martial arts level 3, which is pretty rare. I think the only other like unit that has good martial arts as him is probably Joan. Maybe Mendoza. I can't remember. But yeah, he just brings a lot to any fire team that he's joining, just because he's a gun and a hacker. So you're also getting kind of a Swick discount there. But yeah, very good wild card option. Um, to briefly go over the others, Knight of Justice doesn't really have a lot to offer because he's solely a Spitfire, which you can kind of get elsewhere. Um, and on top of that, he, yeah, I mean, his only like special trait, if you will, is kind of that he has BTS 9, which really makes the hacker profile stand out, just because you can kind of, um, yeah, really utilize that BTS 9. But yeah, as far as like the Spitfire option goes, I mean, he's good. He doesn't have frenzy, which is nice, but I don't know. Like the crux exists, and for that reason, well, and Deferson. And those are two other like kind of Spitfire options that really outcompete him in terms of capability, especially because they're both very similar in price. And then Hawkins, yeah, I don't know. Hawkins just doesn't really offer much. I mean, he has good CC, like he has martial arts level 3, which means he's actually a pretty solid like CC specialist. But the multi-marksman rifle without any sort of um damage addition or like +1 SD, like in the same way that the Crux Knight has, just not really worth it in terms of like fire team options. He just doesn't really bring a lot. Um, yeah, I don't know. I just don't really find myself wanting to take this profile ever. So then moving back to the normal fire teams, if you will, we've got the military orders fire teams first. They can be formed around either Crosiers or Teutonics. If you're forming a fire team around the Crosiers, it's kind of more of like an order battery type fire team, which is not bad. I just don't I personally don't love it. I do find the Spitfire in like a Harris team to be kind of fun because you can kind of use it as like a secondary slash tech piece gunfighter. Um, and I do enjoy that profile. And then the paramedic is also nice, like having the option to do classifieds or heal up your units is just kind of always good. Um, and really, like I would say their biggest benefit besides those two profiles is that a lot of other units count as crosiers. So like order sergeants, for example, are crosiers. And yeah, I mean they offer some unique profiles that you can add in like the HRL or the hacker. Um, and then also Brother Constantinos, as I was saying earlier, is a crosier. So he can peer link with these guys, and I think they do have a very flexible like light infantry Harris that they can bring, and in addition with like the Blackfriar. So they provide a very nice like cheap base that you can build around. Um, but they're because of the second fire team former in this overall fire team list, I think I don't really take them very often because you have Teutonics. And Teutonics are really excellent like profiles. They don't have any like keyword similarities with anybody else, but you can take two Teutonics and you're not really ever going to regret it. They were a little bit nerfed in terms of fire teams, just because of the way that that mechanic works with the limited cover and impetuous rule now. But even then, they're just really excellent midfielders. And really, if you're taking like a Harris team, um, you want to be moving them up into the midfield. That's kind of the point of the Harris team is you want it to be like flexible and mobile. Whereas cores are really meant more to like stay inside the DZ. That being said, if you're taking like a Teutonic core, like three Teutonics and then two wild cards, that is an example of a fire team that can move up into the midfield. Just because everybody has good dodge, good wounds, good martial arts, and everything, it's just very hard to crack. Um, but the other units of note are like the Knight Commander, which I personally don't really like, but he does count as a Cuirassier, which is nice, and he can give you a +1 Lieutenant order, so that's cool, I guess. The Blackfriar is obviously a very good MSV option, and comes with Albedo, which is notable because there are actually a lot of cases where you can kind of trade with another MSV piece, and the albedo will give you a really nice edge over them. It makes them like really good MSV counter snipers, I guess you might say. Um, and then we've got the curator, who I think the curator links better in the second fire team list of the order sergeants, but it's a good option to have here. And then finally infirmers, which is kind of the same thing as the curator. Um, and I will get into the order sergeants fire teams now since it's a good segue. So you can form a nice base. So there are two things to note with this particular fire team chart. They don't have a core option, but they do have Harrison Duo. And the Duo option I find is really nice because it allows you to take these like tiny fire teams that can kind of like roll into the midfield and do damage, but not really cost you a lot. So like for example, if you have like an order sergeant HRL and then maybe like a infirmer or whatever, um, you know, you can it's only 32 points. You're getting a like pseudo gunfighter with the HRL. I mean, it's not amazing, but it can take fights. Um, and it's really cheap. So, and it has like a lot of capability because it's got a doctor in there, so the doctor can push buttons, can do classifieds. The infirmer can even CC if you really have to. So, I do really enjoy like the duo options in this list. Um, and then you can also do things like take the Bulletier Spitfire with like a curator, um, and then uh, kind of round it out with the hacker profile. And this is a really nice Harris team because it's a really good gunfighter through the bullet tier. You could heal the bullet tier with the curator, and then you're also getting the +1 special dice because the curator counts as an order sergeant. And on top of that, your order sergeant can use the bullet tier as a repeater. So it's a very, very nice like Harris team option that gives you a lot of flexibility, and it's also very mobile, and it's only 60 points, so it's not even that expensive. And then you can add things like an Evo bot in your list to like beef up the old tier. So honestly, very, very nice Harris team option. Um, Another thing that you can add to is with Brother Constantinos. Um, you would have to take out the curator to do that and add him, which um, I mean, it diminishes the fire team a little bit because now you don't have the option to heal your boltier if it goes down, but it does give you a disco baller to make it to where your boltier is getting can take better fights because you have the ability to block off fire lanes. And on top of that, um, it just gives you an MSV option, and that's always nice. Um, And then moving on to the next set, we have the Crusader fire teams. So this is kind of your big chunky HI core that you can create. So you can take duos, you can take cores, or you can take a Harris. Um, I think so. The most common fire team I take here is like a HMG and a Doctor. You don't have a tin bot. I mean, you can throw in a Knight of Santiago to get the tin pot, but um, these two guys alone, it's not very expensive, only 62 points. You're getting a really nice like HMG piece that it doesn't have any mods, but BS14 on 5 burst is quite enough in a lot of circumstances. Um, and then the doctor can obviously heal up the HMG if you get unlucky, or it can move into the midfield and push buttons. And I find myself sometimes taking this duo just to kind of add an HMG capability, and I find it to be really nice. And really, I would say the biggest benefit of um, this option is that it gives you like Joan Link ability. So usually you cut out the doctor and you take um, don't take the don't take version 1 Joan, but version 2 gives you a really 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 good AP Spitty, um, and you can kind of like move around with her. Um, I've actually taken the non-lieutenant profile. I think the one unique, if you will, option maybe in military orders is that, well, I don't know if it's unique, but basically inspiring leadership is not really that good in MO because it's only giving you maybe one order from the war core, and you really want to be fire teaming her, so you're not really going to be using the free command token um coordinated order with her lieutenant order. So for that reason, she's kind of a she's better in fire teams really. And so you can take the non-lieutenant profile, and then you can throw in like a Santiago, um, because you really, I think if you're taking Joan, she's very expensive, so you really want to be protecting her with the tin bot. And this Fire Team Harris is really good. It's super flexible, so it can do a ton of classifieds. On top of that, you have a doctor to heal Joan if she goes down. And another great thing is she has no wound in cap. So just like a weird way that skill works is um, if you heal her back to one wound, you're kind of like it's almost as if she has like two wounds essentially. I don't know if I'm explaining that correctly, but yeah, it's really good. And Joan is just an excellent, excellent, excellent profile. Um, and it just had this small fire team. It's 106 points, so it is like a little bit expensive. It's on the pricier side, but it does have a lot of capability. Um, really, Joan can just shoot like almost anything in the game. She's got AP, she's got X Visor, she's BS 15, so even on a -6, she's still shooting on nines, which is really solid. Um, Overall, just an excellent fire team that I really like, and I've only used it once, but I'm going to be taking it more just because of how much I really like it. And then some other notable additions would be like Deferson or the Crux. Um, I think the Crux probably isn't as good of an addition here because you'd have to. I mean, there's not really two Hospitaller profiles I would want to take with the Crux. Since the Doctor is the only really nice supporter, you could take the Contender boarding shotgun, but I don't know. It's a lot of points to be putting down without like Tinbot protection. But Deferson, on the other hand, is really good because he is giving you the Hospitaller keyword. So, for example, like you could just replace Joan with Deferson, probably the LT version, TBH. And then like it's a very similar price point. I think yeah, it's literally only 1 point more, but you're getting um two hackers. Like this link is super flexible. It's even more flexible than the last one. The gunfighting potential obviously is not as good because you're lower BS and you don't have AP or X Visor, but the hacking capability is much better. You can kind of run into the midfield and just start blasting people with Trinity or isolating them. Um, yeah, very, very solid Harris team. And then finally, we've got the duo teams. Um, I take a duo of Santiago's quite often, just because the Lieutenant Santiago is tanky. He is a gunfighter. He can just do like so many things. And then obviously the KHD. So like these two profiles together, they really uh, they can really do a lot, and they're very tanky. It's not really that expensive in the grand scheme of things, like only 64 points, giving you a lot of capability. Um, Montesas you can duo. Um, I don't find that I like if I'm gonna take a Montesa, it's probably only going to be one, just because they're quite large bases. And yeah, I don't really know that I would duo them, because then you're kind of putting them next to each other, and it just gives your opponent uh, yeah, an easier time to shoot both of them, in my opinion. But you can do it. You can get the +1 special dice if you want to, so it's an option. Um, the Bulleteers you could duo together. Um, and the reason I'm like not mentioning mixing these duos is because really like if you're taking two units, especially a duo, you really want to be getting that +1 special dice. Um, so yeah, really, if you're taking a duo, you want it to be pure or have keywords. Um, and then the only other thing I would note is Yeah, I mean, none of the other duo options are really like that appealing. It's really just the Santiago, I think, that I find to be the best duo in all of these options. If Joan could like pure duo with a Knight of Santiago, that would be super awesome. Because then you could get a really nice like uh gunfighter and hacker with a tin bot. Like it would be a very nice duo option, but unfortunately you can't do that. And yeah, the Infirmer doesn't have a keyword, and I don't really see a point in taking the Infirmer in a duo. But this was just a quick overview of like the military orders fire team chart. Let me know if there are any of these duos or cores that you like taking that I didn't mention. But these are just the ones that I find to be very good and very useful in the games that I've played. So yeah, hope you all have a good day, and I'll see you in the next video.